everybody, this is Cindy Allen, and today is a big anniversary celebration. Now, it's hard to imagine it was 100 years ago, I can't believe it, in 1921, that Boyd Lighting was founded by William Boyd to address the specialized lighting needs of architects and interior designers in the San Francisco Bay Area. Today, fast forward 100 years, Boyd Lighting is still a fourth generation design company dedicated to creating uncompromisingly beautiful artisan made lighting with rep firms all around the globe and over 100 products in its catalog, and owned by third generation William Boyd's grandson, my good friend, Jay Sweet. He is a fixture himself in the industry. Hi, Jay.
Hey, Cindy. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you, my sweet. It feels great.
I know. Okay, first of all, I always say this thing, you don't look a day over fabulous, and you don't.
Well, you know, for 100, I think I'm looking really good.
I know, you're looking really good. Well, there's a lot to share with everybody because, you know, Boyd has an amazing reputation in the industry, but it's so much fun to kind of go back and dig into the history a little bit. So why don't you, can you give us like the early on start by William?
Yeah, sure. One, we have to remember I wasn't there, so I don't have it all. I don't have it all down.
Right.
But this was 1921, and you know, Bill Boyd was part of Roberts Manufacturing, a lighting manufacturer in San Francisco, back in the teens. And it was the Pan-Pacific Lighting Exhibition in San Francisco. 1915, 7 huge pavilions were put up in the Marina District in San Francisco. And it was, you know, it was the new time of lighting, of incandescent lighting that was starting to come all across the cities. People still had gas in their houses. But lighting was taking over, and so it was a new emerging industry. So he thought this was something that he wanted to be part of. He started his little company with a partner in 21. Ultimately, that partner was bought out, and he continued with all kinds of theaters and homes. We've always been commercial and residential, and that's what he started for us as a custom lighting manufacturer, 1921.
That's amazing.
That was the beginning.
Yeah, you do think about, you know, even way back then, the lighting was for a wide variety. Right now it's, you know, now we do that all the time, but that's kind of interesting that it started as commercial and residential.
Yeah, it was. And, you know, we would always do what the architects and designers wanted. So we've always been this B2B company where we didn't ever deal with the retail, we were dealing with professionals. So lighting designers, which there weren't many in those days, architects and interior designers, everybody from Julia Morgan to I don't know who. But I mean, I think part of the thing that I'm reminded of often are the 1930s. And as soon as the talking pictures came in, there were all these beautiful palaces to, I think, get our minds away from the great recession that was happening at the time. But we made these lighting fixtures that were absolutely gorgeous, all with, we did these renderings at Boyd with the architect, I guess to help sell the job. But they're all these beautiful spectrum pencil drawings, back colored and etched, sometimes India ink. But they were pretty incredible. And they surround us still in our offices, both in Colorado and in San Francisco.
I love that because I heard you have like, you know, thousands of renderings, which is definitely so special. And I understand back then in the 30s, you were doing lighting, for instance, for the San Francisco Opera House and the Herbst Theater.
Yeah, so we did every lighting fixture at the San Francisco Opera House and the Herbst Theater in the 1930s. I think it was 32 to 34, except for the main fixture that they gave to another lighting company, our friends Phoenix Day Lighting. And so, but we would go and maintain that fixture, and we would relamp it often and take care of that facility for many years.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to do like a little bit of a Cliff Notes version of some highlights in the, let's go to the, so that was the 30s. So let's go to the 40s. Give me a story.
So the 40s, for those of you that don't know, the 40s, metal could only be used for the war effort. And so all around the Bay Area here, we had boatyards and shipyards dedicated to making Liberty ships and other ships of war. The Liberty ships were meant to just transport people and materiel. And so we had to stop making lighting fixtures about 1943. And so we had to find other avenues to stay in business. So my grandfather had a good friend working with him, Eddie Ivani, who was connected to a number of people who would help us with the Navy. And we would then make deck fixtures. We made hospital tray ships and all the rest for the war effort at the time. And it was interesting because my mom was going to Stanford. She left to help my grandfather. He was both sick and needed help in the business. So she ended up working for him. But Eddie and all the guys in the office, whenever they had a submittal to send to the Navy at Treasure Island, would always send my mom. So she was young, she was 20 years old, she was pretty cute. Yeah, and they would send her with the drawings to get them all signed off, and they figured if they sent her that they'd have a better chance of getting them signed off quickly without a lot of changes. So that was something that she ended up doing during the war.
That's pretty smart. That's pretty smart, right?
Yeah. But she's really more the bookkeeper type, and ultimately she became our controller, and she stayed our controller from 1943. Well, I think she worked into the job in the 50s, but she did it until 2010. At the time she died, she was still doing her books.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to the 50s. Can you share a highlight from the 50s?
Well, I think my 50s was, I was a little kid, and,
Right.
and they would have me going to the shop. And I remember the drudgery of inventory. And so these dusty, dirty old bins. So I'd have to fight the mice and the rats to get to these bins, to look at these boxes, to put my inventory numbers in. That's how I learned to count. I learned to count playing cribbage and counting inventory for Boyd Lighting.
Oh my God.
But during those times, it was the infrastructure. After the war, everybody was rebuilding and people were moving to the suburbs. We did everything from freeway lighting to, well, we ended up doing Squaw Valley in the late 50s, getting ready for the 60s. I remember Mr. Cushing taking us around, showing us his development at Squaw Valley. And I remember seeing the ski jump, and it wasn't a ski jump then. When we were there, it was probably 58, 59. And all the trees were knocked down in this beautiful valley in Tahoe. And it was just amazing to see these matchsticks coming down that would ultimately be this gorgeous ski lift. But we were part of Squaw Valley because we did a lot of the work right there.
So wait, Jay, as a kid, was it just like a playground for you? What kind of memories do you have as having this family-owned business?
Well, I've always been a history buff. And one of the things that I loved about that day of inventory that I said I somewhat regretted every year that I'd have to go do that, the enjoyable part was we would collect these old parts. Excuse me, and I'd find things wrapped in old newspaper from the 1920s or the 1930s.
Wow.
I mean, at one point, I saw, I think it was 1938, something like Hitler invades Czechoslovakia in this title page, wrapping up a Steuben glass shade. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so that's the kind of thing I really remember. My mom and dad worked really hard. We were a small company then, we're a small company now. And so he worked as a detailer and a designer. So dad was a really great artist. And somehow that passed one generation, but hopefully some of my kids will pick that up. But he was a great artist.
Yeah, that's, what could be sort of like a treasure for you right now is because because it's 100, like it's such a huge anniversary that it kind of makes you go back and look, and it brings all these kind of memories, right?
They come flooding back. It's amazing, and I love it. And part of the, doing this interview, just thinking about it, and also too, it's the anniversary today and tomorrow of my dad's death. And so, yeah, this strikes me every once in a while as the more sensitive sort. It's amazing, and I love thinking about it. It's hard and it's also great.
That's so beautiful. Okay, all right, so let's keep going. In the 60s, I know you were telling me about this amazing Hawaiian Palace thing, right? The palace
Yeah,
that you guys provided lighting for. Tell us about that story.
yeah, so it was the Iolani Palace of the Kings, and it's the only palace in the United States.
Wow.
And as you know, we kind of secured the islands of Hawaii as kind of a security measure to protect our West Coast. Translated, we stole it from the Hawaiians. And but there was a monarchy in place and so we found a way to move around that monarchy, and ultimately it went away. But the palace was there, and it was used as government offices. And so, for those of you that used to watch Hawaii Five-0 or the show after that, they still shoot to that Hawaii Palace, the Iolani Palace of the Kings. And so my dad and my mom received these photographs from the Friends of the Iolani Palace, and all the lighting fixtures, all the furniture was taken from the palace in the ensuing years after the monarchy was gone. But the Friends of the Iolani Palace wanted to bring it all back together again and to reproduce it just as it was. And so they grabbed photographs, they secured newspaper clippings, they got whatever they could, and they gave it to us to remake the lighting fixtures that were very similar, if not the same, as what was there originally. And so I think that was the capstone of Dad's career. He absolutely loved doing it and working with the Iolani Palace. We created these drawings, we created the lighting fixtures. Like we make most things out of non-ferrous metal, we made these out of brass or bronze or copper. Yeah. And he even worked on the trimming of the crystal chandeliers and reworking the crystal chandeliers so that they would be just perfect. So we did almost all of the interior lighting fixtures for the Iolani Palace of the Kings.
So then, Jay, let's talk about, so you took over in the 70s. What were some of the things that you were excited to develop?
Well, so my parents had always run the company as a custom lighting manufacturer, and I had been in the wine business before, and we created our own wines from our own vineyards and marketed those. And so when I came on, I said, why do we not produce our own products? Why do we only produce products that others design? And they said, well, that's the way we've always done it. It was the same thing when I said, why don't we do a catalog in 1979? And they said, well, we can't have a catalog. I said, why not? I said, well, we've never done that. So, it's that kind of situation. So they had started out with Dorothy and Harry Lewenda at Needler Faucher with a couple little stick-style floor lamps known as pharmacy lamps that we had made for Billy Gaylord, Val Arnold, Tony Hale, all the designers in San Francisco back in the day. And so, but Dorothy and Harry said, why don't you give them to us in LA and we'll start to sell them. And so that was when I came on. My parents were having a little bit of a problem organizing both the custom and the line at the same time. And it's hard to do those both in the same shop.
Yeah.
So we ended up starting to do that. And then I said, well, we started with these few lamps, let's do a few more.
Right.
So my parents had found this little shell in England at Christopher Wray's in London a year or so before. It was really successful. This little shell lamp kind of took the world by storm, and we got knocked off by this manufacturer and that manufacturer, and everybody loved them. So we all kept creating these little floor lamps. And so we did that, and then about 79, I said, why don't we start a catalog so that we can bring more of our designs to the public? In other words, it's our IP, it's our design, or we design it with other designers, but it would be our design. And if we kind of tuned into the zeitgeist of the times, that this style and look would be appropriate. And if we were successful at doing that, maybe we'd have a business. So we kept doing custom, and we did the little lamp line. And then we started to develop that.
Well, so a big shout out to Michael Vanderbijl, who is definitely like an icon in the industry. And it sort of also proves the power of design in many different forms, right? Because, by redesigning the brand, like that was like legit, right? It's sort of like, it was great. He was developing the brand. It sort of made you look bigger than you were in a way, right?
Yeah, and that was a problem in a way,
Yeah.
because we didn't want to be this big company. We've never aspired to be big. We've always wanted to be great, but we didn't want to be big. But Michael is a wonderful guy,
He's
and
amazing.
yeah, yeah, and over the years we've been friends, and he did our graphics for 30 years, But there's something that he has that is really, really rare, Cindy. He has the ability to take this idea. I think his greatest strength is taking an idea and distilling it down into one icon. And he's done that in showrooms for many different manufacturers, even for us when we had our showroom in the Merchandise Mart in Chicago. But he has this way of distilling down a concept into a vision that people can understand.
Yeah.
And I've always been in awe of it. And yeah, amazing guy. And he was also one of the people that introduced us to Barbara Berry in the early 90s.
We'll get to her. We'll get to her.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll get to her. All right. So fantastic. So now you're the chief. You're the chief, and you're making all these really new kind of decisions, which are helping grow the brand. I do want to talk about a few buildings that were really important in the history. So we talked about the Palace. There was also the Fairmont Hotel, but then your building, the 944 Folsom in south of Market, right? Let's talk
Right.
about when your first, building, your first showroom. That really was became a light fixture itself, right? It was so important. I remember it. I remember being so moved by it.
That's really sweet you say that, because that
You remember.
is what ultimately happened. It ended up being a transformational building for us, but I think for anybody that was in the building, and it became kind of the psychological reminder to us that design is so important in people's lives. We all seek for beauty and function and all the rest, but really what we want is be transformed into the place that we feel safe or comfortable or loved or whatever that thing may be. So back to 944 Folsom, we had rented the building from the Anderson family as long as I knew Boyd. So we had moved from Post Street and then a little alleyway in San Francisco in the 20s to 56 12th Street in 1934, I think. And we were there until 1996. But we had rented this building for so long and we were getting bigger, and we wanted to have a much bigger space, both for our offices, but we had been growing more, so Colorado was taking over more of the production. We wanted this for kind of this corporate office. We wanted for a design studio, and we wanted to send a message to the architects and the interior designers of, we believe what you believe. We believe in great design. So we hired this dream team. It was unbelievable. And so together we created this building that was amazing, and mostly not me. I was just the bystander, the facilitator, but it was this building that looked great, that functioned great, but when you were in it, it felt great.
Yeah.
And it was so organized, and yet it was so beautiful in this very Spartan, simple way. I mean, people asked us to have weddings there. We had a bat mitzvah there. We had birthday parties there. I mean, the IES wanted to have their meetings there. The AIA wanted to be there. The AIA put us on, Business Week and Forbes and all these magazines saying good design, brings good business and ultimately profit.
Yeah, I still remember that it was published in Interior Designs. It was it's one of those projects, right? And as you said, everyone wanted to do things in it because it just had a spirit about it. So congrats that it all worked out. Fantastic. Yeah. It's a great memory when you think about 100 years. Okay, now let's talk about some product, because it's nice to also dig into some of those early relationships, and then we'll kind of fast forward to today. But you were mentioning Barbara Berry and the Presidio Collection, right?
Yeah. Well, so it was before that. It was the first one. Yeah, well, we had the Pacific Heights lamps and the Nob Hill and the Piedmont lamps, and that was something that was pretty special. And Barbara designed those, I think, about 1995, and we still have the Pacific Heights in our line. And so,
Oh yeah, I remember the
unbelievable.
Pacific Heights with those beautiful tapered, right?
Yeah, exactly. Very tapered, almost
Tapered, yeah.
Edwardian. And then the Presidio Collection started about 2001, and
Ah,
Barbara hit it just perfectly with the Presidio Collection. It's still in her line. I mean, I'm often seeing TV shows where we had a wall sconce with two arms, square, half-inch arms with a long rectangular horizontal shade. That was the most knocked off lighting fixture. You know, while we have IP on a lot of products, you know, we didn't have IP on those products in
yeah.
those days. And everybody jumped on them, and they're all over. And to this day, I see them on TV all the time.
Right.
But so it was a super successful collection, and that was done in 2001 too. And we still see some of those products in our line now, and they still sell. And they're still, you know, and the Pacific Heights is probably one of my favorite table lamps of all time, and it's, you know, 26 years old.
Amazing. Now, you know what I love? I love that Boyd did all these renderings that we didn't necessarily remember, and then you started working with Barbara Berry, and those watercolors were also very iconic to her work. So that was like a very special kind of connection. Okay, so now you're going to give me like your favorite product from. We're going to play a game. I'm going to name the designer. You name the product, okay, that you love, all right, or that's done really well in the line. Deirdre Jordan.
Oh, Deirdre Jordan, what a doll. She created the Loop series. She's done a bunch of different products for Boyd, but I think the newest, the Loop series, is off the charts amazing. It's strong, but yet it has this femininity, and it has this curving glass, unbelievable. Deirdre Jordan is fabulous.
Love Loop, by the way. Okay, Roger Thomas, our dear friend Roger.
Roger Thomas, yeah, the Scorpio. Scorpio
Yeah.
for sure. It's beautiful, and it has this concept of texture and tradition and modernity that is off the charts. Great juxtaposition in one lighting fixture. Great designer, great human being. I love him to death. I wanted to talk to him yesterday, but unfortunately I won't be until today or tomorrow.
Yeah, we love you, Roger. Okay, how about Eric Chan?
Oh, Eric Chan. Well, my favorite one is one that we always used to kid. It looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger's jockstrap, but it was this very modern jockstrap. You've never seen one like this. It's now out of the line. It was a full-on casting, and the Chan wall bracket was probably the finest thing that I think he's ever done, next to the Prometheus, which he did coming right out of UC Berkeley Architecture School.
Wow, wow. So you have all these beautiful relationships with designers and doing these collections, but in-house you have some big talent too.
Yeah, I mean, Doyle Crosby has been
fantastic.
unbelievable. And one of the newest designs, if you said, what is my favorite of his? I mean, I have so many, but it's the Ghost right now is this incredible 36 or 48 inch round donut, if you will, but it's very, very, very thin. And it illuminates the acrylic with LED side light around it. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. And then you look at Doyle too. He's done something like the Totem, which is this kind of 60s throwback. That, you know, I told him we were redoing our Palm Springs place, and a lot of the 60s things were kind of coming back, and you know, both in Florida and in California and other places. And so he said, I love Googie design. So kind of did his research and got it together and did this Totem. And while it's not the clean, modern, current look that we always do, it was kind of a nod to the 60s in a Boyd way, using LED, you know, kind of our concept of beauty, but with brains too, you know, having a beautiful package, but also having an engineering concept where you don't see the lamp source, it's efficient and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, first of all, I love the Totem. I love the Santa Fe. Who designed that? You did.
No, I didn't design the Santa Fe.
I'm so
That was
proud of
Deirdre.
you.
No, that was Deirdre Jordan.
Oh, it's
No.
so
But see, that's the other thing we got to remember. It's not about us, Cindy. It's really about our clients. You know, it's about those interior designers. It's about those lighting designers. It's about those architects. In a way, I mean, I kid that we're just a tool. We provide them this little part that they use to create the magic. We don't really create the magic. You know, you create the magic. It's the architects, it's the interior designers, it's you who facilitate this kind of thing. And when we make a product that can be complementary to who we think are great designers, or are designers that want to use a product like ours, and they can create the magic and can create transcendent experiences for their clients, we're there. We've done our job.
Yeah, there was a really pretty like sort of metaphor you were using, that talking about wine and lighting, and you know, there's the functionality, but also like how it makes you feel. Do you remember talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities to wine and lighting. I mean, in the vineyard, you're starting with a raw material, a grape, and in our shop, you're starting with a piece of brass or bronze or copper, and then the winemaker or the fabricator takes that and manipulates that, and creates the form, and you create this transformation of the grape into wine, or of the bar stock into a lighting fixture. And they both bring joy. And interestingly enough, you give 3 different designers 3 different pieces of metal, and you give, you know, 3 different winemakers 3 different types of grapes, and you'll get typically very different wines. Sometimes from the same vineyard with the same grapes, sometimes with the same factory, or the same, we call it an atelier, because we're not a big factory. I mean, you know, we're like 20, 30 people, you know, in our shop trying to do what we do, you know, so.
No, that's beautiful. So okay, Jay, let's fast forward. A lot of history, beautiful stories, amazing product. What do you see in the future for Boyd? What do you want the designers and architects out there who are specifying you? What do you want them to know?
We want them to know that we care. We want to be contextual with the kind of jobs that they want to do. We want to create products that are absolutely gorgeous, that are going to function as intended, that will be closer to maybe not the cutting edge of technology, but near that. We want to give them the kind of fast deliveries they want. We want to hold their hand when there's an issue. We want to work with them as a partner to create the kind of work that they do that we think is so wonderful. You know, we don't do this by ourselves. I mean, there's a huge team. You know, we go up and down depending on how big, you know, the marketplace is and all the rest. But we have an incredible staff, you know, of fabricators, of polishers, of wiring and assembly people, of sprayers, of this, of that. You know, and our shop sometimes can be 50 or 60, and sometimes it's 20, 30, 40, you know, so but we always have a core of great people, because you don't do what we do without great people, from the customer service side to the purchasing side, all the way through the shop and through design. And they have to care, and they need to treat the product like their own. And that's one of the things we constantly remind everyone is, consider that this is going to your house. Consider this is going to your business. Consider this is going to be in the bank that you're going to visit. How do you make certain that the client is going to be just delighted with what they got? Not just happy, but delighted. Right. No problems. This is the first 100 years, you know, right. Now as we step into the next point, it's going to be the next 100 years. And, you know, our son Skylar is an amazing guy. And he's worked at Boyd since he was a little kid. He really always loved Boyd. And then he started in earnest in 2012. And he loves design. He loves architecture. He loves designers and architects, working with them. And so he also has a vision for the next 100 years that you'll hear about ultimately from him. And so he'll begin the next 100 years for our company. And I'm really proud of what he's done. And I really look forward to seeing what more he's going to bring to us, because it's been his vision in the last few years that is creating the kind of designs that we're seeing right now. And I couldn't be more proud of that.
Right. Well, first of all, we are delighted by you. I love that you're passing the torch, thanks. So to speak. And I want to thank you, first of all, for everything you've done for the industry. Jay is like an icon. You have so much spirit, so much passion and love. which we all appreciate. And as we look to the next 100, I just want to thank you for illuminating our industry and illuminating the world. Boyd Lighting, a huge congrats, 100 years, amazing. Big love.
Thank you very much.
Big love.
Love back at you. Thank you, Cindy. Bye-bye.
Here we are, Location Luxe. I'm your host, Alan Canas, and here in season 1, we'll be focused on what we're calling the Great Lifestyle Migration. On each episode, I'll be right here in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. Over the last few decades, we've witnessed a great migration for employment and technology development. As such, the need and demand for homes has been among the highest in the country. These migration choices are giving people an extraordinary opportunity to explore new locations, amenities, and lifestyle options. And that's why we're here. Location Luxe. This week, I am so pleased to welcome on location a very special colleague, friend of mine, Trinkie Watson from Lake Tahoe. Trinkie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to join you. This is very exciting for Lake Tahoe.
Oh, it's exciting for all of us. So, Trinkie, today you're going to take us through how Lake Tahoe is not only a destination location, it's a beautiful lifestyle. But Trinkie, before you take us through that, please tell us a little bit about you, your business, and Trinkie, where are you?
Right now, I'm in Tahoe Vista, the north end of Lake Tahoe. And as you can see behind me is our beautiful lake with snow-capped mountains. I've been at Tahoe for many, many years and handle real estate in the whole Lake Tahoe region, including the Nevada side.
So one of the things that people don't realize is that Tahoe has actually 4 sides, but most people know about Tahoe's South Tahoe and North side. Can you tell us a little bit about the 2 different sides and their taxes?
Nevada, it does not have any personal state income tax. So that has been a big, big draw, especially for people coming from California, those who've sold their businesses or are in a position to make a move. If your income is coming from California, it doesn't work because California will tax you on whatever income you make. There's no question, Nevada, the Reno Sparks market, the whole Nevada side has really enjoyed a huge uptick in business in the last few years, and this last year even more so.
Well, I know for my family, we've been coming to Tahoe for many, many years. And so recently we took advantage and we purchased a cute little house. And we bought right at the right time. The market is just booming there. And what transpired is we closed escrow in July, and within a few months we received offers for $50,000 to $75,000, then $100,000 over the asking price in the mail. So your market is just, I mean, it's booming out there. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing for houses on the market. Are they as is? What condition can buyers expect?
Well, that's a good question. You know, our properties range from original cabins from the 50s on up to beautiful new properties. So today, most buyers want something that's done. And so I would say that most sellers make an effort to update as much as they can. Not everything is, and we do see some come on the market. One came on in Tahoe Donner this morning, just over $500,000. It's a 2-bedroom, no garage, and that'll sell for $50,000, probably $60,000, $70,000 over. I just had an offer on a house in Tahoe Donner it was listed at little over 700, and I think it's going out at 8. I mean, it's been bizarre. It really is. There's a house in Incline that came on the market yesterday. It sold 2 years ago for $2.5 million, and it's on the market now for $4.3 million, and the realtors think it's going to sell very close to that. So
Wow.
our inventory is so low, and that of course helps push prices up.
And correct me if I'm wrong, people have grandeur of being on the lake. And, just having a sliver of a lake view to having full on lake view, how does that affect your property value? I'm being told it affects it immensely.
No, that's true. I mean, being on the water is one thing, having a lake view is another. And that could be, 100,000 more in value, depending on where it is, how big the house is, that kind of thing. So big lake views are certainly valuable. Being on the water is very, very special.
And so, Trinkie, what seasonal activities are we seeing in Lake Tahoe?
Just about all year long, you can be outdoors. In the wintertime, of course, we have all kinds of winter sports. It's skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, backcountry skiing. That's very popular. And also snowmobiling in certain areas is very popular. In the summertime, of course, we have all kinds of water sports, many golf courses in our area. Hiking and bike riding. There's a big emphasis on bike trails around the lake. We can't go the whole way around on a bike trail yet, but that's a goal for the area someday, that you'll be able to do that. So, and in the fall, it's gorgeous. Our falls are beautiful, and there's still wonderful hiking and biking, that kind of thing. And the same, depending on what our spring does. Sometimes we have a late snow, and then it's problematic getting into the mountains, but this year so far we haven't had a lot of snow, so it kind of depends on what the weather's doing as far as what you can do outside. But I'd say there's activity outdoors all year long.
And would you say the people that are purchasing right now, are they buying for first home or second home?
We're seeing both. Probably the majority are second. I think people are keeping their primaries, but we've had a huge uptick in school enrollment, so that tells us that a lot of people are moving up here to live full time.
And I know from where we're at in California, we have an influx of buyers coming into Lake Tahoe. Where would you say most of your buyers are coming from? Is it from California, or is it from other areas as well?
No, historically, I would say that we've been 50-60% for sure from the Sacramento and San Francisco Bay Area, and I think that'll continue. We're 2 to 4 hours driving distance away, and depending on what time of day you travel. So I think we'll always see that huge amount of buyers from your area. I mean, your area has done really well too. Tell us about that.
Our area is hot. It is just, it has not slowed down. In fact, it's like somebody lit the flame, turned the flame up even higher. And so what we're seeing is multiple offers just being generated over and over and over. And so we're not slowing down where we thought we were going to slow down. Interest rates are at an all-time low. The buying power has even gotten stronger. We're seeing corporations moving their businesses out of state, but others are moving their businesses in the area. And so what we're seeing is that the rental market has slowed down, where the buyers are able to purchase where they were not able to purchase before. And then again, the second home market, people are purchasing, we're in Lake Tahoe, like what we're doing now, what my family did. So it is strong here. And that's what we're seeing. Like I said, Lake Tahoe become very strong. The surrounding areas, the outer areas, become very strong as well for second home markets.
Absolutely, yes. We have a lot of buyers, certainly from your area, and many of whom are able to buy lakefront properties. And our lakefront inventory is very low as well. We've never seen it like this, ever.
Well, and what makes Lake Tahoe so desirable as well, and this I did not realize until recently, how easy it was to get in and out of Lake Tahoe, not just, driving, of course, but flying, your airport. We have friends that live up the street, they are buying an airplane, and they're talking about how easy it is just to get in and out using the Tahoe airport. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay, well, we have several choices. We have, of course, the Reno Tahoe International Airport is about anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour away from most locations. And then those with private planes, the Truckee Airport's one of the most popular and busiest, I understand, in the country. And so we have a huge number of jets that fly in every single day for people who have homes at sort of the north end of the lake. Then down in your area, at the south end, the Minden Airport would probably be the one that most people would use. So we have choices, and you can also fly private into the Reno. There's an executive airport there too. Also, for air service, there are probably 2 or 3 charter jet services that come into Truckee. So that makes it easy for people coming from LA or the Bay Area to come in privately. It's really a lovely way to travel.
So Trinkie, you're not from Lake Tahoe, correct?
No, I was born and raised in San Francisco.
So what has kept you in Lake Tahoe? What brought you there? What's kept you there?
Well, I was on a ski, after college, I was on a ski trip with some friends. We went to Sun Valley and Aspen. On the way back, I said, let's stop in Squaw Valley. So I ran into a friend who had just bought a vacation home in Squaw. And so I said, well, how would you feel about renting it to me for a year? And so we had an agreement. They came up to ski in the wintertime, and they didn't use it at all in the summer. So I thought, well, great, I'll try it for a year. So I did, and I stayed.
Wow. Well, you know what? I did not think that we were going to be purchasing a second home in Lake Tahoe. And now I can't wait to go there time and time again. In fact, we're going to be heading there in a few days. And once we're there, I hunker down, and don't get me wrong, I can't wait to get back to the Bay Area at times as well, but I love Tahoe. It's gorgeous. We're literally 2 houses from the beach.
I know. Yeah, it's fabulous. I can't tell you how grateful I am that I live where I do, especially this past year. But I love it. It's fun to go to the city and visit and travel and that kind of thing, but home is home, and I've got my dog and my house, and I'm very, very happy here.
So tell me about the home prices, the various different prices, because I know you can go from one price and then jump all the way to exceeding high end. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Right now, I think probably the least expensive single-family home around the lake would be around $400,000. South Lake Tahoe has probably more more homes at that level, and the lower level, more cabins, I should say, than probably some of the other areas around the lake. And then depending on the area you're in, some communities are less expensive than others, but then you zoom the whole way up to, right now we've got a couple of properties that are over 40 million. And of course, those are beautiful estates right on the lake. So it goes the gamut. Kind of hard to find anything under $1 million anymore. I was just hearing today that our median price in our North Tahoe region area is now just over $1 million. I mean, that's amazing.
And why do you think most people are migrating to Lake Tahoe?
Well, I think since so many of them are coming from the Bay Area, it is it's close enough proximity. They don't have to get on a plane. It's an easy drive. So I think it's just a natural for people to want to explore this area and not have to go a long distance. Plus, all the amenities we have. We have great restaurants, we have wine tasting, we have wine bars, art galleries, in the summertime, outdoor concerts. I mean, there's a lot going on in the area. So there's something for everybody, really.
So can you tell us a little bit about, if somebody was going to buy a primary residence, how are the schools up there?
Well, I don't have kids, so I'm probably not the best one to ask, but we send an awful lot of kids to college, and there are a couple of private schools up here for people that want to do that. But we have a thriving public school system, and we seem to get everybody through. So I think we're okay.
Well, one thing that I know that you do have is that you've got a ski camp. Because I have an 8-year-old and she's been skiing, and they've wanted her to get into ski camp, and you've got ski teams, so she can't wait to start that. She's going to do that next year. So, and then you have summer camps. So she can't wait to do that.
That's right. No, that's true. And Squaw Valley has its program. There's so much focus on skiing for the family and for the kids and all, engaging everybody. So that's always good. And there are a lot of families that specifically come to Tahoe in the winter for that reason, to put their kids in ski school.
Well, and the people that live there, from what I have experienced, are just so friendly, and they are so outgoing to be welcoming to the newcomers.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. And yes, I would agree. I think that, it's great. I think those of us that live here love it so much. They were nice.
So with the limited inventory right now, are you seeing multiple offers?
Absolutely. There was a house again, I go back to Tahoe Donner. I just happened to be working with a client who's been looking there. And there was a house they were interested in. And when we heard there were 14 offers on it already, we decided not to jump in. And then we made a bid on another house, and it had 12 offers. And that's the one that I think went out at 800. They didn't quite get to that level. And so instead, we're just putting a lot in escrow for them. They're going to build a house.
When a house is put on the market and has been in a family estate for so long, can there be certain building restrictions that the estate has put on the house when it's passed on?
I've not seen that. We have our own set of restrictions. In the Tahoe Basin itself, we have the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. I call it the head mother. And everything that is impacted on the outside has to be approved by them. So if an older property is going to be remodeled or rebuilt or redone, then that would involve agency input to comply with the rules and restrictions, that kind of thing for the area. When you get out of the basin, like in the Truckee area, the local, you've got, your local permits and everything, but you don't have the severity of restriction that you do at the lake.
Okay, that's good to know. That is actually great to know. So, Trinkie, I have a question that I love to ask. Do you have a favorite buyer story?
Oh my goodness. I probably don't, because I just would hope all my buyers are really happy, and I've enjoyed working with every single one of them, and they're always so excited when escrow closes and they can move in. So it's a happy business to be in.
I feel the same way. I do. That's great. So, Trinkie, what a thrill it's been for you to be here on season 1 of Location Luxe. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, this has been truly a wonderful treat for me, and I'm just so excited to be able to showcase Lake Tahoe and our beautiful region, and I'm thrilled to be part of the Realm program to start this series going. Thank you, Alan, so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you again. Lake Tahoe is truly, truly beautiful. Thank you.